Without further ado, I'm going to get started. So my name is Tess Jacobsen. I'm the Assistant Director for the Environmental Law Program. So again, thank you all for joining us today. A couple little housekeeping things to get out of the way. If anybody has any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to go ahead and drop those in the chat feature or in the Q&A feature, and we'll get to them towards the end of the webinar. We might answer them throughout the webinar as well. And again, the webinar will be recorded, so you will have access to the recording within usually a couple days, a week at most. So this webinar is going to be all about our alumni. So I'm joined by two amazing alums, Olivia Smith and Kiefer Stenseng. I will introduce them a little bit later on as well, but since their faces are showing up on your screen, I wanted to make sure that you know who they were before we officially get started. A little bit about our team here at Lewis and Clark that as prospective students or students you'd be interacting with a lot. Janice Weiss is our Associate Dean and Director of the Environmental Law Program here at Lewis and Clark. And myself, obviously, is the Assistant Director. I will be your main point of contact throughout your time in the program, working with you on curriculum advising, application questions, things like that as well. You'll also probably meet and interact a lot with Delia Weedman, who's our program coordinator and kind of our first point of contact here at the school. So you may have gotten an email from her at some point already or had some kind of contact with her if you've called us ever. Before we get into our Q&A with our alums, I wanted to talk a little bit about the program, a little bit about the application process. We'll get all the boring stuff out of the way so that we can focus on the questions with our alumni and getting to learn more about their perspectives in the program. So Lewis and Clark is here located. Our physical campus is here in Portland, Oregon. Our online program, we started it in 2019 for our LLM students, followed a year later for our MSL students. So we've had an online program prior to COVID. We were one of the first to have the online programs, and it's been going strong for over 7 years now. We've been doing environmental law, though, through our JD program, our Juris Doctorate program, for over 50 years. We were the first law school in the nation to have an exclusive environmental law program, and we've really built on that and expanded it into natural resources, energy law, environmental justice, and much more throughout the past 5 decades. We're one of the top-ranked environmental law programs in the country, and we have a vast array of curriculum. Our online curriculum is a little bit more curated, more of our most well-known topics, but obviously our online students are always welcome to take in-person classes as well, so you really have options across the program as well. A little bit between the 2 degrees so that people aren't confused, because I know there's a lot of acronyms that get used. So our LLM is our Masters of Law, and that is for people who have a JD or equivalent degree. Usually that's going to be an LLB if you're an international student. Basically, you already have a law degree and you want further education. That could be because of your work, because you switched careers. Maybe the law school you attended didn't have environmental law. It's been a while since you've been out of law school and that wasn't really curriculum when you were in law school. That's going to be what the LLM degree is for, or who the LLM degree is for. The MSL is our Master's in the Study of Law, and that is for those of you who already have a bachelor's degree and who work in fields, and I'm sure our alums will talk more on this as well, but who work in fields where you don't need necessarily a full law degree, but having a better understanding of environmental laws and regulations will help you in your career. There's no LSAT or GRE required for it, but the MSL, an important distinction is it's not a law degree, so it does not qualify you to practice law or to sit for the bar exam. You would need a JD degree for that, because we do get that question a little bit, so I just want to make sure that that's the distinction. This webinar is focused on our online program. Again, we do have the in-person program as well, and there's a lot of students who take advantage of both of those options. Our online curriculum is really designed for those students who are working professionals who maybe can't uproot their lives to move to Portland, Oregon, but want to take advantage of our expertise in environmental law. The majority of classes that we offer are all asynchronous, which means you can complete them at any point during the week. You can listen to lectures. There's not like a live structured class time. there is certain like check-ins or checkpoints, and again, I'm sure our alums will talk more about this when they get into that as well and can kind of tell you about their experience in the program later on. But the checkpoints are usually just like weekly discussion posts, maybe a quiz or something like that that's due every week to make sure that you're following along and listening to the material. But again, that can be done at any point. It's really designed to be flexible with your learning style. And I said most classes are asynchronous. We do offer usually a couple summer classes that might be Zoom courses that require live attendance in a Zoom classroom, but those are optional courses. Any required course, you can definitely go through the entire program without ever taking a synchronous course, and do strictly asynchronous courses. We're going to talk a little bit more about the program requirements as well. So again, the LLM and MSL students are required to complete 26 credit hours. So that is, most of our classes are 3 credits. So it's usually going to be, roughly around 10 or, 9 to 10 classes. And then the required courses for MSL and LLM students are administrative law, which is a fairly core foundation of US environmental laws. That's really what most of our environmental laws deal with some kind of administrative state or agency. Environmental law, this is our survey environmental law course that will introduce you to the big environmental law statutes like the Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act. You kind of get an overview of a lot of the big statutes that make up environmental laws in the US. And then for LLM students, you also have to complete 2 semesters of emerging topics, which is our hot topics, current happenings in environmental law. It's a really fun course because it changes every single semester. It's a lot of based on what currently our students are interested in or looking at. There's a lot of guest lectures and things like that that happen in that class. And that's a 1 credit class that's offered every fall and spring semester. It's optional for MSL students. They can definitely participate in it, but it is required for our LLM students. And then for our MSL students, the other required course is Intro to U.S. Environmental Legal Studies, which is really a course that's designed just to introduce you to the U.S. Law school classroom. This is also a required course for our international students who maybe haven't had experience in a U.S. classroom or U.S. laws. It'll introduce you to the common law system, things like that as well. International LLM students do have to complete 2 additional credits, and that's going to be that intro course that I was just talking about. Otherwise, the required courses for international students is the same, except that administrative law is an optional course. It's strongly recommended, but since you're an international student, it's not required. However, if you plan to stay in the US or plan to work in the US, definitely encourage you to take that administrative law course because it'll be a really good foundation for future courses as well. We do have some courses that are offered outside of the environmental law curriculum, so you may see some animal law courses or some JD online courses. Those are optional to take on a space available basis, but at least 18 of your credits have to be in the environmental law curriculum. Which is great. There's lots of classes to choose from. We're always adding new classes as well. So last year we added an environmental impacts assessment course. This year we're adding a land use planning course. So there's a lot of new courses that kind of get added to the environmental online curriculum roster. So it's really easy to meet those 18 credits. I want to talk a little bit about the application requirements as well. So I already mentioned for LLMs, you must be a graduate of an accredited either US or international law school. Again, that'll be a JD in the US or an LLB or its equivalent internationally. If you have any questions about if your degree qualifies for LLM or an MSL, like feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to chat and make sure that you're applying to the correct program. For MSL students, you have to be a graduate of an accredited US or international college or university. Any degree, I kind of get this question a lot, is like, do I have to have a certain degree or anything? No, any kind of degree is completely acceptable. You don't have to have a background in law or anything like that for the MSL program. Just again, it's for people who maybe would where in more knowledge about environmental laws and regulations would come into play in their work or, in their future careers as well. Other things that we look for in applicants for both programs is an excellent academic record, so we will be asking for your unofficial transcripts. We also look for strong research and analytical and writing skills. This will be through a writing sample or through your personal statement. And then a genuine interest in environmental and natural resources or energy law. This will be something that you can get conveyed through in your personal statement as well. Importantly, no actual bar membership is required. And in addition, no GRE or LSAT is required either for the application process. We try to keep things as simple as possible. This is a list of what is required in the application. This is also available on our website. I know I'm moving through these slides kind of quickly, so I'm always, again, happy to reference more things. I just know that y'all are here to really hear from our alums, so that's what I want to be able to spend the most time on. The application, it consists of an online application form for either the MSL or the LLM program that will ask for some basic demographic information. Um, You'll also submit your statement of interest. This is going to be like a 200 to 500 word statement that discusses your interest in environmental law and how you hope this degree will help you in your future career. And then your resume is another important factor. Typical work resume, business resume is completely fine. Something that talks about your educational and work experience background is great. Volunteer experience is always great to see too. And then we'll need your unofficial transcripts from either your bachelor's degree if you're applying for your MSL program or from your JD or LLB curriculum if you're applying for the LLM program. We don't need, if you're applying for the LLM, we don't need undergrad. We don't need any additional master's transcripts or anything like that. Those are the only two transcripts that we need. And for the purposes of application, unofficial transcripts is completely fine. So you're welcome to just send us a you're welcome to just send us, a screenshot of your transcripts or just a PDF. It doesn't have to be anything official from the school. And then we're also looking for 2 to 3 letters of recommendation. These are great if they come from colleagues, supervisors, professors. Those are really like 3 strong places to get letters of recommendation, but really we're looking for people who can speak to your ability to be successful in a graduate level program. So whoever you think would be best to talk about that, talk about your research, your writing, your analytical skills. Those are always really great to see in letters of rec. And then MSL applicants and international applicants also have to submit a writing sample. This is usually 5 to 7 pages. It does not have to be environmental in nature. Something you wrote in undergrad, something that you write just for the purposes of this application is fine. Just something that shows off your ability to research a topic and come up with a clear thesis and have a strong writing skills because of the amount of writing that you do in these programs. It's really important that you have a solid writing foundation as well. And for international students, we do ask for proof of English proficiency. This can be either an IELTS or a TOEFL score. If your undergrad was taught mostly in English, that's fine as well. Again, if you have specific questions about any particular parts of this, I'm always happy to meet one-on-one. If you have questions about, does my English proficiency, does this qualify, things like that, always happy to meet one-on-one and discuss things with you as well. Or again, you're welcome to drop questions in the Q&A or the chat feature, and I will get to those too throughout the program. Quickly, our timeline, our fall app is due on July 15th, so coming up in just a little over a month. And then the spring 2027 deadline is October 1st for priority consideration. We typically send out decisions within 2 to 3 weeks, so we try to get you a decision as soon as possible so you have enough time to confirm or not. And then if you are considering submitting a federal financial aid, you can fill that out, the FAFSA. You can fill that out now, even before you're admitted or submitted your application, if you know that you plan to file for federal aid for the next academic year. And then that will, as soon as you're admitted, you'll be able to start getting, our financial aid office will be able to start processing your financial aid application as well. Our fall classes start August 17th with our intro course, and our spring classes usually begin in early January. Without further ado, now to the big part of our program where you get to meet and talk with our alums. I'm very happy to, or very proud, I should say, happy and proud to introduce our two wonderful alums. I'll start with Olivia Smith, who is a January 2026 MSL graduate. So congratulations, Olivia, just recently graduated. Olivia currently works as a regulatory compliance specialist on FERC relicensing and permitting for hydropower projects in Seattle. She helps to navigate the complex intersection of energy infrastructure and environmental protection. Very interesting work. Before coming to our MSL, or before doing our MSL program, she had a background in environmental communications, natural resource outreach, and marine science research. And she pursued the MSL to gain a deeper understanding of environmental law and forward-thinking solutions. So thank you so much, Olivia, for coming and for joining us. And again, anybody has any questions, feel free to start doing them. I have some to get us started, but I want to make sure that we have time to get to all of yours too. I also want to introduce Kiefer Stenseng, who graduated summa cum laude from the LLM program in environmental law this past year as well. So congratulations too. I love that we have two recent graduates here. Prior to attending Lewis and Clark, he received his JD and MBA from Gonzaga University and his undergraduate degree in Scandinavian Studies from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And he currently works as staff counsel for the Washington State Senate, where he works as a deputy prosecuting attorney in the civil division of the Spokane County Prosecuting Attorney's Office prior to his work in the Washington State Senate. And with the attorney's office, he worked on land use issues relating to permitting, flood control zone assets, and appellate litigation. Very strong litigation background before joining us in the LLM program. And he's published several law review articles regarding the Clean Water Act and the Fifth Amendment related to the Sackett decision, which was a big Clean Water Act decision that came out a few years ago. So thank you both for coming. I want to give you a chance if you want to say anything else that I didn't cover as well. Otherwise, I have a list of questions to get us started too. If there is anything else that you wanted to say to have a background or information for them. Olivia?
No, I think you covered it. That was a pretty robust intro, so thank you for having me, and I am happy to be here and can't say enough great things about the program.
Mhm. Great. Kiefer,
I,
was there anything you wanted to add?
I just echo Olivia's statement. I think you covered it really well, and I don't have anything negative to say about the program, only positive reviews of the online LLM.
I think that's great. Thank you both. So my first question to both of you, and Kiefer, if you want to start us off, what drew you to get the LLM and Olivia the MSL when we next?
Yeah, absolutely. So prior to starting the LLM program, I was working as a deputy prosecuting attorney in the civil division at Spokane County Prosecuting Attorney's Office in Spokane, Washington. And I was doing a lot of civil commitments. So I dealt a lot with mental health law and things like that. And I wasn't particularly enjoying the work, and I wanted to try and shift over and do more land use planning, environmental law sort of pieces. And I was slowly acquiring a portfolio while I worked at the county of doing those things. But I knew that pursuing an LLM was going to give me, I guess, more tools and a bit more credibility in terms of shifting my career. I had just started out as a young attorney, and I really wanted to make that career switch as soon as possible.
I love that. Olivia, what drew you to pursue the MSL?
I was drawn to Lewis and Clark because one of my mentors went here for law school, but nervous about I was nervous about pursuing a JD and just committing to the duration of school for the next 3.5 to 4 years and the expenses, and I would have to move. So there was a lot of reasons that I was hesitating to fully commit to law school or to the JD track. And then I found the online MSL program, which was really attractive for me because I could keep working, I didn't have to relocate, and I could still get exposure to the content that was does serve me now in my daily life with my job. And it was just a nice kind of happy medium of getting a touch on it, but not having to dive in fully to being an attorney.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing too. And could you both kind of talk about, how you approach your weekly lessons and modules, a little bit about the online learning platform and format, how you used it, how you found it, during your time in the program? Whichever one of you wants to start. No one's, I can call.
You
I'll
want to
let
go ahead,
I don't
Olivia
want to
go.
cold call.
You go ahead, Keeper.
Okay. Well, so for me, working with the Washington State Senate, Washington operates on a biannual legislative session, and so we are only in session once a year from approximately January and then into April in some years, and then further along into May and others. So for me, it was really key that I needed a program that had that flexibility to manage a really crazy schedule for part of the year. And then the rest of the year, I had a lot more free time to be flexible and be with my family as well. So typically what I would do is I would work during the day, have dinner, and then I would sit down and study afterwards. And then usually the modules are structured on a weekly basis for most of the fall and spring ones. So you do your readings throughout the week, and then you complete a quiz and a blog post towards the end of the week. And really what I would try to do is just get my readings done, do my studying, and then complete those things on the weekend when I had a bit more time. And I felt it worked really well for me. I had two children during my time being in the LLM program, and somehow I was able to do all that and complete the degree. So there was a lot of flexibility for sure.
Thank you, Kiefer. Yeah, I think that flexibility is great. And it's great. We've had a couple people who have had that who work for legislatures. So they sometimes take off like the spring semester, whichever session legislatures are in session, and continue with the program just in the summer and fall as well, like you did. And Olivia?
Yeah, the question was just how I interface with the online format.
Yeah. How you approach your weekly lessons, modules, how you found the online learning format too.
Yeah, I, similar to Kiefer, would kind of structure my week so that I would have designated work time, designated school time, and then designated personal time. Although I will say during that time there wasn't very much personal, but I tried to give myself Friday nights and Saturdays and basically just structured the week so that Sundays were reading, Monday, Tuesday was one course, Wednesday, Thursday was another course, and then I just cranked all my lessons and discussion posts into those respective days for each course. So it was a lot of time blocking and a lot of time discipline, like being very disciplined with managing certain hours and saying a lot of no's to plans and fun things during that time in order to meet deadlines and requirements and things like that. So yeah, that was how I navigated it. And then I gave myself Saturdays to go outside and touch grass and remember that I was a human being away from my computer.
And
That is
one
so
thing I might
important.
add too
Go for
with Olivia's statements is that as far as the blog posts go, I also found that those were a really helpful tool to actually learning the material. A lot of the courses require quite a bit of writing, and I got more out of it the more I put into those blog posts, and it really helped me review and learn the material for those exams that we would get at the end of the semester.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And yeah, it's important to have personal time too. You can't do just school and work during the time, even though it can feel like that at points. Kind of related question too. In your all's estimate, how long, do you think you spent per week on each course between like watching lectures, doing readings, things like that? And I imagine it's probably different between when you started in the program versus your final semester in the program. Olivia, you're unmuted. Do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I can definitely speak to this. So I came in a little bit drinking from a fire hose. I front loaded my coursework, so I took four courses at once, which I wouldn't recommend. And I think it was no, I forget how many credits it was at the time, but it was too much. Two was full but manageable. One was really nice and totally doable. So that was how I learned. Kind of came in hot. And the first three courses, I was trying to read everything and listen and write down everything in every lecture. And then as the semester went on and as I moved into the other semesters, I realized like you only really need to take away the key components and then be able to speak to them. And rather than writing down every single thing, I would write down like the chapter headings and then the key objectives of that lesson, and then listen to the lectures and try to listen more than write everything down and just add my own notes to those, which saved me a lot of time. Because in the first semester, I think, man, I was pausing lectures and trying to write stuff down that they said. And I just didn't know how exams were going to go. So I was really trying to write down every single thing. And I was up till like midnight some nights just doing my lectures because of that pausing. And I would say it wasn't an efficient use of my time, but once I took those exams, I was like, oh, this is what the level of detail is. Like it really took me getting to an exam to figure it out. But following that approach, I realized, oh, these are the things we need to learn. It's this law, it's these, sections of that law, and this is how it's going to be asked of us. And each exam's a little different depending on the professor. Some are timed, some are exams, some use the Exemplify platform, and you learn as you go and you get better, and by the end you're an expert. But I will say it takes a little bit of just learning how to be in school again.
Yeah, especially once you've been out of school for a minute and getting back into that grind. Four classes, wow, yeah, that's a lot to start with. Kudos to you though. Kiefer?
Yeah, for me, I probably overdid it on the amount of time I spent on my online classes, but for me, I had a really high personal goal of graduating with honors, and so I feel like the work that I put in is what I got out of it. Um, and so I would probably spend between, 12 to 16 hours, depending on the credit load each week, maybe a little bit more depending on what the content was and how familiar I already was with it. Uh, for those of you who might be current JD students thinking about an LLM or people who already have JDs, um, the skills that you learn in law school on how to study will really, really help you be successful in this program. I found that I would usually outline the lectures and I would also have a separate outline for the readings. And then I would combine those two outlines at the end of the semester where I would just rewrite an outline as part of my practice getting ready for the exam. So that was my strategy, and I found it was very effective. Uh, I did have a lot of late nights, I will admit. But given the flexibility of the program, and if you're willing to give up some Saturdays and Sundays for, you know, a couple years maybe, I guess, in the fall or spring or in the summer, depending on how long you stretch out the program, you can really be successful in it. And I think it was a great strategy for me.
Great. Thank you. And for those who maybe, if you're an international student or MSL student, Kiefer was mentioning outlines and things like that. If you're not sure what that is, we do have a lot of resources available for students, or if you're a student who's been out of school for a while. So things like we have a director of academic resources who will help you, get back into the learning. We cover this in the intro course a little bit as well, what an outline is, what a law school exam looks like. So you're not completely tossed off the deep end if you've never taken a law school class before, or if it's been something that you haven't taken in a long time. So there are a few resources available for you too. We try to make sure that that is there. We had a couple questions come in, and Olivia's been doing a great job of answering them, typing answers too. I want to give a chance to answer them live too for the recording. So there was a question about the day in the life of your job, so which I think is a really great one. I know this is addressed to Olivia, but I think it'd be great if both of you talked a little bit about it. How did you know that this was what you wanted to do? And, do you like your jobs? I hope you do, but if not, that's fine too. Kiefer, do you want to start us off with that one?
Yeah, sure. So, my role as staff counsel at the Washington State Senate is to staff different policy areas. And currently, I have two portfolios. One of them is human services, and then the other is the Washington State capital budget. Human services tends to have a zero level of environmental law involved in it. And I'm slowly working at shedding that portfolio, but capital budget actually does have a lot of overlap. And so, in that regard, what I mostly do is I review incoming projects, I help determine their eligibility, help decide, assist policymakers figuring out which ones we're going to fund and not. And a lot of the funding at the state level in Washington is tied to particular statutory schemes. So, for example, one of the funding mechanisms we have is through the Climate Commitment Act, where certain tax dollars are funded to the state and then they're used to mitigate the challenges presented by climate change. So, we fund a lot of projects using those dollars. And understanding, the Clean Water Act, for example, can be really helpful to untangling which projects are going to have a maximum level of benefit. Um, we have various water projects that we work on in Washington. We funded some $20 million in irrigation and tide control gates, things like that. A lot of salmon recovery efforts, those sort of things. So I spend a lot of time working with policymakers, senators, and stakeholders throughout the state to identify projects that we want to fund and then figuring out how we can make that happen. That's a very large portion of my job.
I love it. It's such a unique way to combine environmental law with other fields as well. What about you, Olivia? Sorry to make you repeat yourself from what you typed.
No, I apologize. I've been responding to these
No,
'cause
it's great.
I thought they were
I love
directly to me. I work in hydropower regulatory compliance, which is a lot of big words to describe, basically guiding power companies through the legal field of, or like legal framework that they need to comply with in order to operate their projects. So it's the federal licensing component of it is it's separate. It's handled by the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, but the non-federal side of it is overseen by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission under the Department of Energy, and they oversee all the non-federal dams in the country owned by private entities or public utility districts. And so what I do is help those utilities operate their projects or improve conditions and remove them if necessary. So the whole FERC process is really complicated. It's like a five to 8 year process with the federal government, and it's basically to help prepare an EIS, an environmental impact statement, to aid FERC in their National Environmental Policy Act (NEPA) analysis. So essentially, I'm writing environmental impact statements about dams, but behind the scenes, it's a lot of coordinating with scientists and engineers in my company. And then it's also a lot of coordinating with federal and state agencies to make sure that we're complying with the laws that they oversee, like Clean Water Act, Endangered Species Act are the big ones, Federal Power Act, and then also incorporating nonprofit feedback and interests if they are representing or advocating for recreation, like for example, American whitewater in terms of whitewater kayaking and whitewater boating, and also American Rivers is a big one, Trout Unlimited for fly fishing. And so it's just bringing together all the parties and moving through this process in a way, basically explaining how the process works is what my job is to our clients and to everyone involved, and showing them how they can be involved and comment and express their concerns, whether it's dewatering and harming fish habitat or drought conditions and worrying about their rates of their drinking water. So it's a whole complicated corner of the energy world that I found myself in as somebody that loves rivers and um, doing all the things on them.
Yeah, I love how your role, like you work with everybody across the spectrum, from nonprofits to scientists to lawyers. So having that like understanding is critical, I'm sure, in your role for communicating with all those different people. And we also had another question come in about being able to connect with professors and take advantage of office hours discussions, things like that, while being online and asynchronous. And so I was wondering if you both could talk a little bit about kind of how you saw that, what professors did, what kind of interactions you had with the professors, did you get to know them, things like that, in the online program. And Olivia, do you want to start us off with that one since you typed the answer? Which is great.
Yeah.
These answers, yeah, Olivia's typed a bunch of them too. So if you want to follow up with that too, on the reading it versus just listening, definitely do. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, no problem. So this is the professor's question.
Yes.
Yeah, I wrote it down, but I would just highly recommend joining any office hours that you can as somebody that's online at Kiefer. I think you were in person or maybe you were online. No, you were online. So you really miss out on that face-to-face interaction and you can't really beat FaceTime. So that I would highly recommend just doing as much as you can and developing those relationships with them. And they're there to help. They're some of the smartest, most amazing people that you'll probably ever meet. They were that I met. So I would say they're definitely there to help you. They respond. Emails can be hit or miss. I think they get so many a day, but the responding through the platform, the Canvas platform, worked really well for me. When I had questions, you could just email or message them directly through that, and that seemed to be a little faster. And yeah, just joining the office hours when you can.
Yeah, I would say that I found that I got the most out of it that I put into it once again. I really connected with a lot of the professors that I had, in particular, Assistant Dean Janice Weiss. And I know you and me, Tess, we exchanged quite a lot of emails over my time in the program, and I think we got to know each other really well. Um, the other thing I would say is that Lewis and Clark just has so many resources for students. You get full access to Bully Library and all of its online tools. I use that so much during the program. Everyone was always available to me if I ever needed something. If I had a question for a professor, I always found that they got back to me really quickly. And I felt like it was just a great way to get to know them too, even if you're just trading emails with them. A lot of my work professionally is done remote, and I just see that that's the way that the world is going, where you can still connect with other people even if you can't see them face to face. And obviously, face to face interactions can't be beaten. But if you're willing to reach out to other people and schedule a Zoom call and just talk to them, sit at your kitchen table and chat with your professor for 30 minutes. Um, those opportunities are always available to you in this program. And there's just so many resources from the job center to the library and just everything that you can get from connecting with your classmates as well. All of that's available to you. And I used all of it during my time at the program.
Thanks, Kiefer. Yeah, that just all of the all of the resources, just to double click on what Kiefer said, are available to our online students as well. So whether that's career services, whether that's our academic resources department, Bully Law Library, definitely take advantage of those too. And again, I like to kind of be the middle person that's directing you to all those resources as you're a student as well. So you probably would interact with me a lot by email as I send you to different departments and things to get your questions answered. Um, Kind of a question that got brought up when you were talking about it, Kiefer, was that we do have some in-person events too that our students are able to join. So we do have like an MSL LLM kickoff party that comes up each fall that a lot of our students join in, and then commencement too is a great time to come to campus. when you're graduating and join in on the in-person commencement ceremonies, which are live streamed as well. And if you just happen to be visiting Portland too, definitely reach out. I've had a lot of online students who just happen to be coming through and they'll stop for a tour of campus, pick up their student ID card, things like that. You're always welcome to come visit campus, participate in those things as well. Um, One of the other questions that came in from students was kind of to reword it a little bit, but did either of you do any of the an externship or an experiential learning experience while you were in the online program?
I did not, no.
I wasn't sure if you did or not, if either of you did.
No, I kept working. So I, my company
Yes.
offers a education reimbursement. So that was really enticing for me to go back to school at this point. And so I would work like 8 a.m. to 1 and then go on a walk, come home and do school at 2 to however long it took, 8 or 9 p.m. So not really much wiggle room for an externship, but it served as that.
For sure. Yeah. And so for any students who are interested, we do offer externship opportunities as well. A lot of our students are working professionals, so it doesn't really fit into their schedule to do an externship. But if you are someone who's doing full-time remote work or, on a break between jobs or something, we do offer that opportunity to do an experiential learning experience, an externship slash same internship. Basically the same thing. Externship's just a law school term for an internship, but you can receive academic credit for that, and we kind of help you find a placement and things like that in the areas as well. Kiefer, did you have something to add? Sorry, you were unmuted. Didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I guess the only thing I would add is that I don't think there's a single day of the week that I don't see Tess send out some opportunity that she's found or hunted up somewhere. So there's one of the real value adds of the online program is that the connections you're going to get and the opportunities you're going to hear about, they come to your inbox every single day. And I haven't taken advantage of them personally. I'm quite happy in my current role. But I mean, that's a real big value add to me is that there's just so many opportunities for you to take out there. And Lewis and Clark does a phenomenal job of connecting you to those resources.
I'll
Thanks,
add
Kiefer.
on to that and just say a huge reason that I wanted to do the program through Lewis and Clark was because of the network that you get to join. It's some of the top environmental professionals on specifically the Northwest and West Coast, but also nationally and even internationally. So it's been amazing, yes, to get the job notifications and just see what's out there and also join the Career Connect portal, I think is what we call it, but it's a whole platform to look at jobs and connect and see what alumni work there, which is just an amazing asset for you for the rest of your life. And as you said that, Kiefer, I was wondering, do we get the emails? Like, do the emails ever shut off or do we get those for life? The email like addresses.
So there are time limits. I think it's usually 18 to 20 months after graduation that your Al Clark email will get shut down. They send a lot of notifications, so you're able to still like make sure that you're joined with the environmental listserv and things like that, and switch things over to your personal email. Fortunately, you don't have your student email for life, but you do get it for a significant portion of time after graduation.
Sweet.
Yeah, they send lots of reminders, the IT department. Along with that too, with like we were talking about connecting with professors and things like that. How did you all find connecting with other students in the program? Did you meet other students in the program? Did you engage with them at all? If so, how? Either one of you? Olivia, you want to start since you're unmuted?
Sure. I will admit it was definitely hard online to connect with people. There was a couple names that I would converse with behind the scenes if we were having trouble with a problem or a question, or would message around exams like, what are you writing for this? Or what do you think about that? And we would kind of bounce ideas off each other. But I never really met over Zoom or live with anyone. And so never got that face to face, even though it is on a screen interaction because it is asynchronous. So that was, I would say, kind of a like a con to the program was just not developing the relationships that you do when you're in person. I went to the graduation ceremony, met Kiefer here like a month ago, and was a little jealous of all the students that had been on campus and had developed really deep bonds and friendships of being together. So it is a little bit of a drawback, and you have to work extra hard to develop those connections with people online because it's just a name. You don't see them in a Zoom. So
I have I
Thank
think, a
you.
pretty good story about my experience. So my current role I actually got because of the program. So in my first class, my first summer class, a friend of mine now, he was currently working for the legislature on the House side, and he reached out to me and he said, "Hey, we have this opening on the Senate side, and I think you would be great for it." And I said, okay, well, maybe we'll see. And I applied and I ended up getting that role. And I've really enjoyed it since then. And he and I still keep in touch. He obviously lives on the west side of Washington, and I live on the east side now. But for me, that's just like a really concrete example of how you can connect to people through the program. And I've met a lot of other people through the program that I do keep in touch with. I've connected with a lot of different professionals on LinkedIn, for example. And there's always opportunities. You get to really actually know your classmates quite well, I think, through the blog posts. You can see, sort of how they think about things, how they view problems. And if you take the opportunity to reach out to them and talk with them, it's a really good opportunity, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it could definitely be harder in an online format. Like, I appreciate that honesty too, Olivia. Like, it is. You don't have that automatic face-to-face interaction, but I think, like, like you both said, like, there's definitely opportunities for it throughout the program, and takes a little bit of extra effort. It might be a little bit of a different type of interaction with students, whether it's more virtual, LinkedIn, places like that as well. So, thank you. I appreciate both of y'all giving those examples and honesty. So, one of the questions that just came in was if either of you, this is a really interesting question, I don't know. During the program, did you all take a course about guiding novel research into policy? It sounds like they are working on a new infrastructure, but it's something that became policy. Did this program guide you into a career, or did you take any courses that involved creating new policies?
Kiefer, I'm going to defer to you on this one.
So I didn't do any work into developing novel policies. I did use the program to write several different law review articles, one of which I am currently pursuing publication of. So I would say that there is a lot of opportunity within the program to kind of build into it your own interests. Um, in the emerging topics class in particular, which Tess talked about earlier, you draft a blog post. And so I used those courses. I took three of them, and I used that as kind of a starting point to dive into different interest areas I had. I did some research on the Lighthouse Preservation Act program, which is an interesting program where the United States gives away or sells lighthouses to nonprofits to preserve them. So that might be an example of like a discrete policy area you could dive into. And that's something that no one really talks about or is interested in, but I just found it interesting myself. And so, when you're thinking about the program, there's a lot of opportunities to get into things that really interest you.
Mhm. Yeah, one of the classes that you're able to take too, or if you want to do like a deeper dive on a certain area that we don't necessarily have a class on, is we do offer the option for an independent research project. This is usually a research paper, but we've had other examples of it. It can really be, as long as it's environmental and it's kind of legal in nature, it can be about anything. We've had people do it for work preparing a class that they want to teach. So they'll use that independent research as an opportunity to, do a syllabus and courses and things like that. Or if you want to do a deep dive on a certain topic, that can be a really valuable time. We offer those for like 1 to 3 credits as well. And I'm going to get into I have a couple more questions that I want to ask you all specifically, then I'll get into some of the application questions that came in. But one question that came in was about what certifications you would recommend for someone who is looking into environmental law, both either the LLM or MSL. So potentially, think maybe a JD if they're thinking about the LLM. They're an environmental law science student and are trying to see options before they graduate. Do you guys have any? I have some thoughts, but I want to defer to y'all as people working in the field too. Any specific certifications or anything that you'd recommend?
I can start, I guess.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, being a lawyer, I would always recommend taking the lawyer path, but I would say that that's going to be highly dependent on your desire to do reading and writing. Uh, 100% of my job is reading and writing oriented and also utilizing, strong soft skills. So if you're considering the LLM or MSL path, I would really reflect on what your desires are to be a lawyer or not, and how much you really like reading and writing, because that's all I do all day.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And just to clarify, the LLM would be after a JD. So you would, I think it would means the question JD or MSL. And agreed, JD, you have to really want to be, I think, in the legal landscape and reading, a lot of writing. And same with the MSL to an extent. I mean, I also spend a lot of my time reading and writing, but it's also a lot of just coordination and logistics. So it's beyond the legal side. I do a component of the legal work, but not much. So I think it just depends on what you want to do on your day to day. And if it's more being out in the field, then pursuing more of a master's track in science would be probably a better route. So yeah, agreeing with Kiefer, it's how you want to spend your time. Is it in person with people? Is it more behind the scenes? Is it more out in the field? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. And just to note too, if anybody wants to discuss further about like how a JD and MSL neither would help you or what, career, which degree would be best for you, if any, I'm always happy to meet with you and discuss that. I do that a lot with prospective students who are, considering both degrees and or if either degree is a good fit for them, that would be beneficial to their career. So I'm always happy to talk with you about that and give you some, honest answers and help you think of questions to guide you to the choice that you might want to make. The last question I have for you two is if you have any advice or one piece of advice for an incoming student, what would it be? Kiefer, do you want to start this time? Then we'll go to
Yeah, I can
Olivia.
start. I would just say have a very clear idea about what your career goals are going into the program, because there's so many opportunities that come your way while you're in the program, but if you spend time flip-flopping between them, you might miss out on building out your network to set yourself up to have, some sort of job as you exit, or if you currently have a job, that really lines up with what you're currently doing in your role. um, that would be my number one thing that I would suggest to students.
Yeah. Olivia?
I'm gonna play devil's advocate a little bit here and also say be open-minded, because throughout the program you may take a course and learn about something that you didn't even know was an issue that may really spark your interest. And like for example, I took emerging topics and learned about the impacts of tourism and cruise ships when they're in ports and on air quality. And it was like, oh man, this is a whole thing that like I kind of knew about but didn't necessarily. And so it it could totally open a door and take you down a path of something that you could be really interested in and then utilize and bounce off the professors and the other students and contacts in the program if there is something that really strikes your interest to help you get into it.
That's great. I love both of them. Thank you. Thank you both for answering those questions too. We had a couple questions come in about like a couple application things, so I just wanted to answer those very briefly in our last couple minutes. We had a question come in about personal statements and if they're competitive. I wouldn't say a personal statement is competitive. I will say, like, the application is competitive. It's a competitive program, but where the personal statement, really comes into play, to me, it's the most important part of the application because it's where we're hearing from you directly, not a recommendender, not your transcripts, anything like that. We're hearing from you and what your interest in environmental, natural resources, or energy law is, and how that might help you in your career. So I think that it's a really important spot to not only show off your writing, but to tell us a little bit about your story and your background. Because this program is so focused on environmental, natural resources, and energy law, you really need to have that interest area. This is not going to be a good general US law program because it is hyper focused on this area. So that's really where the personal statement, I think, is the most important. And there was one more that came in. About the courses being offered, which I think Olivia answered that question, but most courses are offered in the spring and fall, with the exception of administrative law is currently offered only in the summer for the online students. And we have usually a couple Zoom courses that I mentioned that are offered throughout the summer that are like 2-week, 2 credit courses that meet in the mornings or the afternoons. Usually on more niche topics. This year we're doing one on energy justice in Oregon, and we're doing one on the climate law after Biden. So those can tend to be a little bit more hot topic-y type of classes as well. But the vast majority of our classes are offered during this fall and spring semesters. But there is opportunities to do it year-round if you want to do. Just one last note on housekeeping things. We offer online starts for our students in January, May, and August. So it's year-round. Applications are accepted on a rolling basis as well. So you can apply at any time for future semesters as well, though we have deadlines for each semester, so make sure to get them in by that point. And then if you have any questions about your one-on-one counseling or advice about the applications, feel free to reach out. Always happy to do that. We had one last question come in. I'll answer it really quickly. Personal statements is the same as a statement of interest. Basically the same thing. We call them that interchangeably when it comes to the LLM MSL program as well. So thank you. Thank you, Olivia and Kiefer. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We hope we answered a lot of your questions. Feel free to reach out if you have any more. We have a bunch of past webinars too with other recent graduates available as well. So definitely check those out on our website. But thank you all so much for joining us.